Okay. Are we good, Nico? Are we on? She's can't tell. Are we good? Yes. Okay, I have a thumbs up. That means go! And it just dinged. This is HeatherAsh, Amara, and this is the second part of our series. That's just two, not four. Two of our series on women's initiation and healing rituals. And I'm going to do an overview of our last class, just a brief overview for those of you that are joining us for the first time. And welcome to the Austin audience. We have a lovely Austin audience. Say hello. Hello. Broadcasting live from Austin, Texas. And welcome to all our global viewers that are watching from all over the place. It's really lovely to have you be part of the circle. Women's initiation and healing ritual. And what we talked about on the last class was this idea of an initiation is honoring the transition and really to give ourselves the gift of, in a way, it's the gift of challenge. It's the gift of marking a significant transition. Usually initiation is between young woman to adult. So when we go from maiden to the adult. And it's something that we're wanting to honor that transition. And what initiation is the honoring of that transition. And often it's about us finding what's true for us, coming back into our authenticity. So what we're going to play with today is two parts. One is going back into the past. And going back into the past with the intention of healing an event or a significant shift that happened in our life when we were young. And to bring that healing and a sense of closure to that so that we can be more present in the future. Because have you all noticed that if you have a difficult thing that happened in your past, anytime you scan your past, what stands out? Do all the really great things that happened in your life stand out? No, the painful thing is the one that has the most energy. Okay, because we've given it the most energy. And so when we free ourselves by reclaiming that energy that we've invested in the past, that got stuck in the past, we can actually bring it into our present. And when we have it in the present, yay, then we can choose where we want to put this. So the second part of the class today, we're going to focus on, okay, now that I brought some of this energy back and I have it available for me in the present, what's true for me now? And what do I want to honor in my life now? What ceremony, what ritual do I want to create for myself to honor a current transition that I'm in or a recent transition? So we'll teach you tools for both how to heal the past and how to honor the transitions you're in the present. How do you heal the past? Well, here's the cool thing. Your imagination is phenomenal. Our capacity to dream reality is really incredible. And sometimes when we're kids, the adults go, oh, it's just your imagination. But if they only knew! Imagination is what creates everything. Truly. If you think of anything that has been made by humans on this planet, where did it start? Right? Someone dreamt it. Someone had an idea. They imagined. And then they took action to follow through with what they had imagined. So our imagination is what starts to create reality. And the truth is that the past is actually really fluid. We think of it as this incredibly rigid thing, but it's only because our attention's been hooked in particular places, usually that are difficult, painful places where our attention gets attached to. And so when we scan the past, we say, this was my childhood, do. Okay? And we have a story of what our childhood was like. We have a story of what our experiences were like. Now, we had those experiences. It's not about pretending I didn't have any bad experiences, because that doesn't work so well either. Right? Right. Hi, yes, my childhood was beautiful and lovely, and I'm really happy today. Doesn't work so well, yes? Okay. And I know, I'm sure almost everyone in this room has tried that. Just try just being really happy and see how that works. But what we want is authenticity. What we want is that when we look past at our childhood or at our adulthood, that what we see is the beauty that created who we are now. And that we can honor the difficult times and have them in context for that happened, but I don't have to hold a story about it that I use to punish myself in the present. Okay. I'm going to tell a story, and I kind of hesitate to tell this story, but it's a really important one, and I'll give you the hesitation first. Okay? Don't use this against yourself. Okay? That's the request. It's a teaching story because it's so out of the norm of what our experiences is because of the way we've been domesticated, about how we think of things. I had a friend who was asleep in her bedroom one night and woke up with a man on top of her with a knife to her throat. And she was raped. And when he left, she said, I took a breath, and I got up, and I called the police, and I got myself to the emergency room. And then I went home and went back to bed. And at the time that she told me the story, I was in the process of working through my own sexual trauma from childhood. And so I was just like, what? How is that possible? And she was an incredibly grounded, present. She wasn't like, bad things happened, but now I'm fine. She was here. She was solid. She was authentically, I had that experience. It was unpleasant when it was happening, and then it was over, and I went back to my life. And I said, how did you do that? Most women that have had sexual abuse carry it with them. They carry this weight with them for years, for decades. It eats them alive from the inside. The experience happened, but it's rare for women that have had sexual abuse that it happens once, right? Because we replay it over and over and over again. So I asked her, how did you do that? And she said, I just knew it wasn't about me. It wasn't my fault. It happened. I was okay afterwards. What she did is took a situation that was very painful and challenging at the time and was able to put it in the context of, and now it's over. And that's what I hope to support each of you in today. And it may not be that easy. This might be the next 10 years that you're working on a particular thing. Seriously. And that's okay. So why I'm saying don't use it against yourself is if you've had a traumatic experience and you go, well, I should just be over it like that woman HeatherAsh talked about. That's not the point of the story. The point of the story is it's possible, and are we willing to get behind ourselves 100%, to support ourselves 100%, not to tear ourselves down, to support ourselves 100%, to be with whatever it takes to heal. Whatever it takes to heal, and however long it takes to heal. That we're willing to stay with ourselves and to actually have fun during the healing process. Okay. I spent approximately 2 years trying to figure out who had sexually abused me. Like my life was on hold because I had to figure out what happened. Because I had all the symptoms but I had no memory. And about 2 years in, I went, you know, this is kind of stupid. I've put everything on hold to figure out something that, so what if I get the information? What I know is I have these particular symptoms, period. Why don't we just address that rather than trying to figure it out? So to let go, and a lot of that was judgment and fear and all the sorts of stuff. So for us to be willing to let go of, I'll let myself be happy when. I'll feel joy when. Any place we put conditions on, when I heal this part of myself, then it's okay to be happy. Then it's okay to enjoy my life. Let go of those agreements. And show up, be willing to really show up with you, with your healing. Whatever it takes, however long it takes. Because some things are going to be quick. We bring our awareness to them, And we're able to shift them simply through our awareness, simply by broadening our perspective. And some things are not so quick. Some things take longer because they're more deeply rooted in us. And those are the ones that I think of that are like weeding, that we have to be willing to dig down deep into the root and pull it up from its roots so that we can get the manifestation, what the root of the manifestation is. Okay. Example, I just did a class last week on presence and stillness. And one of the women was talking about her mind, that her mind was always, how many of you relate to this? Talk, talk, talk. So that her mind was constantly talking to her and she couldn't get it to shut up. And I said, maybe not being quite so much resistance around your mind would be a good place to start, because it just fights back. I don't like you. I don't like you either. Right? I'm going to do exactly what I want to do. I'm going to talk all the time in your head. Ha! Okay. Whereas if you go, oh, hello, mind, what are you up to today? Really different energy. Really different energy. And that's what we want to begin to cultivate, is a healing attitude. A healing attitude towards ourselves, towards our mind, towards our bodies, towards our past, towards our present. One of the things that I was talking about is that when you have a lot of thoughts happening in your mind, it's what I affectionately call disaster mind. Okay, and this is kind of what disaster mind looks like. See if you can relate. You're driving, you're having a good day, then you hear something on the radio. Really bad traffic ahead. Oh no, really bad traffic. Oh my gosh, what if I'm late? I can't be late for work. This is going to be so bad. I hate traffic. Wish I didn't live here. I moved here because I got that job, but I really don't like living here and it's not fun. And did I turn the stove off? Wow. Remember that story of the person that left their stove on and their house burned down to the ground, and it was so sad because their dog died and I love my dog. Is my dog okay? Oh my God, it's my dog. I'm going to be late for work. Oh no. Quick, pull yourself together, girl. You're getting to work. Come on, let's go. I wonder if I turned the stove off. If it burned down, then I'd be homeless. What if I didn't have a couch? Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And on it goes. Okay? Disaster mind. And it's usually looking at what happened in the past, or even taking snippets of stories and looking at what happened, what might go wrong in the future. Okay. How we heal our disaster mind gives us information around how to heal everything else. And that's when thoughts are being generated, it's because there's some belief that's generating the thoughts. There's something deeper that's generating the thoughts. So if you want less thoughts, be willing to look at the thoughts and get curious about what's under that thought. What would cause me to think that thought? What would cause me to go into disaster thinking? What would cause me to, and you'll see there's different reasons. There's just habit. The people around you think in disaster mind terms, and so you happen to think in disaster mind terms as well. There's the media, which also has influence on us. It's simply reflecting back how we are in the world. But the media also fosters scarcity and fear. And there's also beliefs that we have that are deep. And that's part of what we're working on healing actually through this ritual process, is to get to the subconscious place, the sub-basement of where we created our beliefs, and to work at that level on an energetic, spiritual, ritual way, rather than trying to figure it out. What the mind is great at is helping you go, what might this agreement be about? Or what might these thoughts be being created from? So example, if your disaster mind is worried about how you look and if people are going to like you and if you're wearing the right thing or if you're supposed to bring a gift to this or not, and that's what it's worrying about, what might a belief be that's deeper than that would cause those type of beliefs?
I am not enough.
I'm not enough. Exactly. If you're holding a belief, I'm not enough, and those beliefs often aren't conscious. Sometimes they are. They pop up and they actually say, you are not enough. But usually what it does is it's running down here going, you're not enough, you're not enough. And so your thoughts then are around not enoughness thoughts. Okay. So when we use the thoughts to help us go into what's the deeper core belief, then we go, I believe I'm not enough. Okay. Then we can investigate, where might I have gotten that belief? And this isn't around blame. Blame is not a healing energetic. Okay, so if I go, okay, now I got to figure out who did this to me. Or now I have to go figure out how I did this to myself. Because if we're not blaming others, often then we blame ourselves. But to be more curious around, where might this have come from? The attitude of curious, playful exploration about yourself is so helpful. It's so helpful to have that sense of curiosity. What have I created in there? And I'd like you to bring that same curiosity to the imaginal ceremony that we're going to do today. We're going to play with rewriting the past consciously through ritual. And as I said last week, what a ritual is it's marking a transition in our life. And that part of ritual is around letting something go. What do you want to release? What do you want to let go? And part of ritual is bringing in. What do you want to bring in? What do you want to create more of? If you haven't watched the first video, you can go back and watch it, and we'll give you the 5 steps of ritual. But today I want to focus on the 2 center parts of ritual, which is releasing something and bringing something in. So we'll talk about that in a minute. I'm going to circle back to that idea. So here's one piece around rewriting the past when it's instantaneous. I'm going to share a personal story, and then we'll start talking about bigger transitions that you're wanting to go and shift the energy around. So when people used to ask me, where did you grow up, or what's your life like? You know, the kind of basic questions when you're getting to know somebody. What my story was this. I was raised in Asia. We moved every 2 years when I was a kid. It was really hard because I would move someplace. I was a really shy kid, and I'd feel really gawky and out of place, and I wouldn't know anybody. And sometimes it was so severe. We moved to Oklahoma City once for 3 months, and I got pulled out of class because I didn't know what a quarter was. So I had to learn what a nickel and a dime, because I didn't know. So that level of just like, not fitting in. And then I'd start to get to know people, and I'd start to make friends, and I'd start to feel more settled. I'd start feeling better about myself, and then we'd move. So I went through that over and over and over as a kid. And it's made me have a really hard time making connections with people. It's made it really hard for me to say goodbye. I'm either like hanging on to people or I'm pushing them away. It was really hard. How you feel? I tell you how I felt. Okay, what's the underlying thing of that story? Hard. It's really hard, right? And I'm screwed. I had a bad childhood. I'm screwed. I'm scarred for life. I'm sorry. I'm going to probably not be a really good friend. Okay? And then I also throw in being really judgmental of my patriarchal father who made us move because he worked for a big corporation. Okay? I'll throw that in just for spice. So, that was my racket. That was my story. Okay? I believed it. And one day after I'd been working with Don Miguel for several years and learning about beliefs and learning about that we're the artists of our life and that we create a reality, one day I heard myself telling that story, and I realized I am so bored with that story. Like, it is so not interesting, and it's not. So I said, well, how else can I tell the story? So here's how I rewrote it. And the next person that asked me, I said, I was so blessed to be raised in Southeast Asia. We traveled every 2 years, and it was incredible because we got to go around the world. We got to see different cultures, different people. A little challenging because I got moved a lot, but really what the result was is I am incredibly fluid, I'm incredibly flexible, and I have the capacity to connect with people really easily. How do you feel?
Good.
Better, huh? I feel better too! Okay, question. Which one's real?
Neither.
Both, neither is the answer. Both and neither are true. Okay. If you ask my mother what her experience of Asia was, totally different. My sister, my father, totally different. Okay. Even the same experiences that we had simultaneously, we had different experiences of the same thing. Okay. What that tells me, what I got is I can create what I want. I'm not a victim to the story. I'm not even a victim to the experience. And it doesn't mean I don't honor the experience, but I don't have to repeat how hard it was. Because you can feel it in your body, even hearing me tell the story. Do you feel the weight start to like, and what your brain probably starts doing is going, yeah, mine was really hard too. And usually what we do is we're like, you think yours was hard? Yes, let me tell you about mine. So we can shift the energy by simply just being willing to open and to look at ourselves from a new perspective. To open to ourselves from a new perspective and see what other story might be there with the same information that when we tell ourselves that story makes us feel good, makes us feel more present, makes us feel more engaged, makes us feel more alive. Wouldn't you rather tell yourself that story? That's your choice. That's your choice. Now, do not use this against yourself. Because if you can't change it, you can't change it yet. It just means you don't have the energy. Okay? That's all. That's all. It just means you don't have the energy yet. And so stay steady with, I want to change it, and I don't quite have the energy yet. Because I can't, or I don't know how, or I feel really stuck. Then love yourself through the stuckness. Love yourself through the I don't know. Love yourself through the stay with yourself. And that's what will allow the change to happen. It never helps to say, I should be doing something different. I should be having a different experience. Because you're not. You're having the particular experience you're having now. So honor that and stay clear about, and what do you want to create? And as you do that, you'll gain the energy that you need. And here's one tool. So there was one tool. Here's another tool. So that was a tool of simply re-looking, reviewing the way you talk about yourself and shifting it slightly. Just a little bit. Just what could you tweak? Just a little. And notice, how does that feel in my body? Okay, does that feel more authentic, more me? Okay. There's a way they're both authentic, but one is authentic victim. I'm being authentically a victim really well, okay? And other ways of looking at it is authentically judgmental, authentically judging, critical. And then there's authentically present with what is. And that's what you're going for, is that what's true for you, that resonates, that brings you joy, that lights you up, okay? That gives you space in your being. And sometimes making boundaries or going, I can't hold with this right now, that's part of what creates a space. Okay. Knowing, this is a process. It'll take as long as it takes. It's okay, sweetie. Okay, so that gentleness towards ourselves. So last week, I invited each of us to come up with 3 different areas where we had a traumatic or a big change in our life. So 3 different events. I'm going to ask everyone now to bring that down to 1. So for those of you that are new to the broadcast, look back over your childhood and just notice where was one significant event that happened in your life that if that had changed, if that event hadn't happened, would have had a big impact on your life. Okay? Don't necessarily go for the biggest, most traumatic one that you can. For this process, you can. But to pick a place in your life, and that might be when your parents divorced. One of the things we talked about last week was first menstruation, going to a new school, okay, losing somebody that you love. So what was between the ages of, let's say, 4 and 16? Come up with one event that was a big shift in your life, that had a big impact on your life. Okay? And let's do this. Everyone, go ahead and close your eyes for a moment. And let yourself dream back over your history, over your childhood. And ask yourself, where's one event? There may be multiple events. Pick one for now. Great. And holding that event in your mind's eye, go ahead and open your eyes. Okay, so we're running an experiment, because usually I do this in pairs in a more intimate way when I do this class, not globally. So we're going to play with this. Okay, and then I'll give you the opportunity, both the audience here and the audience globally, to then look at how you can do this in a more intimate way with yourself afterwards. This will still be profound. And the profound piece is this. I want you to imagine that there was someone in your life at that time. It can be a totally fictional person. What's really cool, what's really fun, is to imagine you as an adult now can go back to that situation. That's really cool. And what you're going to bring, or you can imagine someone being with you at that time, and them supporting you in creating a ritual to honor that transition. So you're not trying to change the situation. The situation happened. Okay? The situation happened, period. And if you had had guidance and support from an adult that was loving, present, connected to you, and could help you create a ritual and ceremony to honor that transition, what would that look like? What would that look like? What would that feel like? So ritual, to do something physical of what you want to let go of. To do something physical about what you want to bring in. Okay, so keep this in your awareness. I'm going to talk a little bit more about ritual so you can help fill the pieces in. One beautiful part of ritual is around building an altar. And probably all of you already have altars in your house without even realizing it. But what an altar is for a particular ritual, to honor a particular transition, is that you gather what would support you in this transition, or what reminds you of this transition that you're in. So for example, if I imagine in my life, if I look back in my life, and I look at, let's say specifically the time that we moved from one place to another, and if I as an adult could go back and go, okay, we're moving again, let's do a ritual. The first thing I would do is start to gather things that reminded me maybe of the place that I was living now and the place that we were moving to. Okay, for example, or to gather something that for me meant stability. I once moved into a house, and I'd moved a lot. It's hilarious. I moved to Davis in California, and I lived there for 12 years, but I sat down one day and counted. I'd moved 13 times in 12 years. And 3 of those years, I lived in one house. So what I started doing as a ritual for myself in the present was I had a rock that I'd bring with me, and it was like that was the first thing I'd put in the room. Okay? Anchor. So I could imagine as a kid going, here's my rock. Okay, we're moving, but the rock's coming with me. That's solid. Okay. So can you feel that you're gathering things that would support you in your transition? And it can be anything. It doesn't have to be sensical. It might be, oh, here's an orange, and here is a golf ball, and I'm going to light a candle, and that's my altar. and it means something to you. It doesn't have to mean anything to anybody else. That's what makes ritual so beautiful, is that it can be deeply personal, and it's your metaphors, it's your symbols that talk to a different part of you. Okay, what the mind tends to do is, yeah, you're moving, get over it, let's go. Or, okay. But we can go beyond the mind, we can go deeper than the mind to the subconscious, and how the subconscious connects is through imagery, is through symbols, is through touch, is through movement. And that's what we're doing when we're building an altar, for example, is we're bringing different elements together and creating something of beauty that reflects back to us what the transition is. Maybe what the energy is that we're wanting when we move to the new place, in my case, for example, or something that feels really solid. Okay? Then another piece is around, what do you want to let go of? What do you want to let go of? So in my case, with the move, as an adult, I might go back to that child and say, let's really have gratitude and let go of all of our friends here and all of the places we love. And so maybe what I would do is gather pebbles or gather leaves or write on a piece of paper all of the things that I love about this place. Okay, I love this, I love my friends, this makes me really happy. And then to let go of not the memories of that, not the energy of that, but knowing I'm leaving. And so maybe I take those things and burn them or give them to water. It's really good to use the elements, or throw them, take them into little bitty pieces and throw them up into the air. Of I'm releasing, I'm letting these go. Okay. Maybe what I need to let go of is my grief around leaving. And so that would be something else. What would I do to release the grief? So maybe I'd go, as this adult, I'd say, okay, let's put on really good music and let's dance around and cry and beat on pillows and have a tantrum. Okay, that would be releasing the emotion. So we feel into what needs to be released here, and that's what I want to invite you guys to do, is what would have helped you to release something that was keeping you stuck in that situation that you came up with. Okay? And we'll have you share in a minute. So for those of you that are global, feel free to chat. Both Sheila and River are monitoring the chat, so you're welcome to share what insights you get. So imagine that you have this little altar built, and can be of anything. And then just let yourself dream, just let yourself imagine and open to, for the particular situation that you called forth, what release ritual would have helped you to integrate, to clear, to move through that difficult situation and make it just a little bit easier for you? What could you have done? What would have helped? So anybody on chat, and Sheila and River, if any of the folks share anything, you're welcome to say it out loud. And then for you guys, what arises? Speak loud.
I'm thinking about a time when I first left home, and I think...
So she's thinking about a time when she first left home.
And maybe something like letting go of people's expectations and ideas of what I would do and what I,
Beautiful.
How far I would go. So maybe like throwing rocks into the ocean or something is what comes to me.
Great, great. So what she's saying is letting go of people's expectations or ideas, and what came to her was throwing rocks into the ocean. Perfect. So feel that, and everyone just take a moment to feel that viscerally of like throwing that away into the ocean, watching the ocean swallow it up. It sends a message to the body, you can release this, you don't have to hold on to this. That goes way deeper than the mind. It goes into a really deep subconscious place and creates change. That's what ritual does. Okay? Good. Somebody else. What was the transition? What was the... So speak up loud.
Okay. My dad wasn't there pretty much my whole life. Yeah. I mean, he was there, but he was always gone.
Yes.
And I thought maybe if I was able to be there with myself at that time, maybe a ritual of some kind of releasing him and being like, this is what he needs to do.
Beautiful.
And, he was also a farmer, so maybe things that means something about him to me. Like I could maybe plant it, like maybe, like in the ground, and kind of symbolic of like growth.
Beautiful.
I wouldn't be who I am if he hadn't done that.
Right. Great. So what she was saying was around. Should I repeating? Okay, good. Good. Is that her father not being around a lot and realizing if she could have done something that she was with herself and really honored, that's what her father needed to do. So it wasn't personal. It's just that's what he needed to do. And I love that idea of planting something or to honoring the farmer in him. And that's exactly it, is to let go of he was supposed to be there. Or there was something wrong, of just like that's what was. And then there's all this space. Beautiful. One more. Transition and what you would release in that transition. Yeah. Barbara and short.
I lost 3 grandparents when I was like 6 and 7.
Beautiful. She lost 3 grandparents when she was between 6 and 7.
And in my family, it's like we did the whole funeral thing, but then we never talked about them afterwards.
Right.
We never went to visit the graves.
Yes.
We didn't. And I remember imagining I would see my grandma walking back down the street, like it wasn't real to me.
Yeah.
And so just sitting here thinking about it today, I'm thinking, well, why didn't, I could build an altar.
Yeah.
And I could have it like that high for me as a kid size, and I could go talk to Grandma.
Beautiful.
And I could ask him, is it real? Is heaven real? Whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just have the permission to freely say what I'm thinking or not understanding.
Great. And that's beautiful. So losing, and so traumatic for a child to lose 1 grandparent, let alone 3. So in that transition of death, that so often happens for us, that those of us that have had experiences of death, that we go to the funeral, but then they're never talked about again. They're like gone. They're wiped off the map. And so what ritual would honor the letting go? And I love your idea of building an altar that you could have then gone to talk to them. Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. Good. Anything from the chat, Sheila or River? Lots of things, she's saying.
Yeah, there's quite a few. Well, so a way back, one person asked about abuse. Like, is that something to be honored by a ritual?
Yeah, so one of the questions on the chat is around abuse. Is that something to be honored in a ritual? Yes. What would you want to release? Okay, the abuse happened. What ritual would honor that you are still whole? That it wasn't your fault? What would you need to let go of? And so for people that have been abused in any way, whether it's physical or emotional or mental, to look at what am I carrying from that? What weight am I carrying from that I can put down? What do I want to let go of? So you start to look at what would be a really good thing for me to let go? Oh, my shame, my feeling that it was my fault, my fear that it's going to happen to my children. So we look at what was the impact, what are we carrying, and then you create a ritual and then do something. It's not just enough to go, I'm going to think about letting go of blame. Because gosh, if that worked, we all would not be guilty or feeling blame or shame or judgmental about anything, right? We go, oh, stop that. But we want to put it into action of how would I let go of shame? So a beautiful release ritual might be that you go to your closet and you pick out 3 things that you've gotten because you were trying to hide yourself. Mm-hmm. And you make the commitment, I'm going to let go of those because I know why I had those things. Okay, I'm just making stuff up, right? And that's all this is. People go, well, how do you do it? I go, I don't know, you make it up. Really, there's no way to do it. You make it up. So when your brain goes, is this okay? Go, yeah. You're making it up. You're doing great. Okay, so use your imagination and ask yourself, what would serve me in letting go? And then maybe you could choose to do then a ritual bath around letting go of shame. So maybe you go get a massage, and your intent is, your masseuse doesn't even have to know, your just intent is, this is the beginning part of me letting go of shame, and then I'm going to go take a ritual bath to clear off and to really honor this body. Okay. And then you say, now what do I want to bring in? What do I want to fill that space with? You let something go, you bring something in. make it up. So that's the most important piece. Imagination and creation. You create what ritual and ceremony would have helped. Okay? Cool, huh? Simple. You can make shit up. Yay! Okay. And then, what do you want to bring in? What do you want to create? What do you want to put in its place? What's the new seed you're planting? That's the second part of the ritual. And again, how would you act that out? So perhaps, let's say, in my story around moving around a lot as a kid in a significant move, maybe I would have gone and said, okay, let's go out. I want to embody adventure, like the adventure of moving to someplace new. So maybe I'd go out and I'd go rock hopping. And that feeling of like jumping from one rock to another and that free in between, woo, and then landing. Okay, what does the body get? Right? Joy. And it's okay to let go, and you're going to land someplace else. And it's kind of fun to fly like that. So that would be my bringing in. It would be, or jumping on a trampoline maybe. Okay. Or burning a candle and getting really clear with my intent is to, what would I want as a little kid? Make new friends easily. Okay. For me, it actually would have been, let them have a good horseback riding program, which they always did when I was a kid, thank goodness. And my parents were fabulous because they always found us the horses to ride, and that made it all good. Okay. So that probably would be my thing. Let them have good horses where I'm going. So maybe I'd get a little horse and put it on my altar.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And then there's like, space. Okay. So what we learn about ritual?
Make it up.
Make it up. Okay, it's about making it up. Now, there are many books that will say, here's how you do ritual. And there's recipes, and there's different things you need to do. That's great. But you guys are gourmet, experimental, cutting-edge cooks. You love recipes, but you're like, I love that, I love that, I love, thank you. And I'm going to bring this in with it. Okay. So be creative, be the artist. You are the artist in that ceremony for yourself. So to make this more real for yourself, then you've gotten some ideas now from listening to other people's stories. You have some ideas brewing from your own experience. When you go home tonight, write it out and sit down and imagine yourself doing it. And you might even do the ritual that you would have wanted for yourself. So actually physically do that ritual for yourself now. That can be really transformative for you to give yourself that ritual now. Okay. And even just imagining it. Often when I teach this class, it's always amazing to watch after people just imagine it, there's this weight that's gone of like, okay, it didn't have to be different, but me honoring it in a different way changes everything. Changes everything, yeah.
I have a question. My mind keeps wanting to change what happened instead of just letting me do a ritual around it.
Yes.
It keeps wanting to change the experience.
Great question. So the mind's wanting to change the experience. And there's nothing wrong with that. See if it works, is what I would say. Because it might be you're able to change it, and then you have that sense of open and like, it's good. Okay. So play with it. And also play with, well, what would it be to just go, that's the way it was, period. And what would I put around it? And maybe by putting that around it, it'll change. Yeah, so play with that. Yeah, Sheila.
And we have somebody who would like you to talk about how do you let go of grief?
How do you let go of grief? Great question. A little bit at a time is my response to that. And the recognition that grief is something that we really carry deeply in our bodies, and that often the grief that we're experiencing now is not just about this present moment, it's around the past as well. So that when we're in grief, to realize, to open up around, it's probably not just this moment's grief, it's all the grief that you haven't released your whole life. Excuse me. And so to give yourself the space that when the grief arises, to have the grief. I know one of my dear friends, when she was in the middle of a really intense breakup, and she's crying she's just non-functional for weeks. And at some point she's like, okay, I have to go back to work. And what she did is she started taking a timer, and she'd give herself 10 minutes. And she'd put the timer on, and she'd go for 100% grief for that 10 minutes. The time the timer went off, she'd and go to what she was doing. Okay, and she did that twice a day. And she said that helped tremendously because it allowed her to function. But it didn't just go, what many of us do with grief in our past is, I don't know what to do with this, stuff it. And so we have this huge buildup of grief that we've kept stuffing and stuffing and stuffing. And so then something big as an adult trips it up. It's often not just this, it's also all the things from the past as well. And so by giving yourself time frames of go into grief 100% for this long and then stop and do something else, then you're letting it go. You're letting some go. You're letting some go. And the image that Raven and I teach is that it's like you're carrying a big backpack of all these old emotions, and that backpack's pressurized because you've been putting stuffing inside. It's full. So what you want to do is let the pressure off and then keep releasing the old, releasing the old, releasing the old, till you get to the point that you're in the present with your emotions. Okay, it just takes time. That one takes time. And the willingness to do things like, if you can't access the grief, go watch movies.
Yes.
Go find a movie that'll trigger that. I mean, for me, it can be a commercial. I once, when my papa died, I went to a movie. I was the only person in the movie theater. I mean, this was just such a grace of spirit. So I'm the only one in this movie theater. It's this fabulous movie around some teenage dancer that they win the competition. You know, it's like total cheesy dance movie. I wept. I sat in the front seat and I wept and wept and wept for 2.5 hours during this movie. You know, and I was like, okay, it was great. Okay, so give yourself the permission and to not create griefful experiences so you can release it. Because that's sometimes what we do to release emotion, is we find something out here to be in grief about so we can let go of that. Okay? Just cut to the chase. Okay? To not need to externalize it. Just, you don't have to understand it. You don't even know where it came from. Okay? And that's true of most emotions. Okay? And I'm going to talk about 13 moons in a minute. We do a lot of work around emotion. Okay, so present time ritual. Now you have some tools around creating initiation rituals, ceremonies around transition in your life in the past. And now bringing it into the present is around looking at, in this moment, what transition are you in the middle of? We're all transitioning with something. There's always something we're transitioning out of or into. And then you ask yourself, how could I create ritual? How could I honor this transition that I'm in? And it can be minor. It can be a small transition. It can be a major transition. Okay. The small transition might be, I so rarely have small transitions, so let's see. Oh. Getting a new dog. Yeah? Getting a puppy. Okay, we don't think, I should create a ritual, but damn, it'd be a good thing to do. Okay, to really honor new energy coming into the house. What's the ritual? I would say the first ritual is potty training, yeah. Doggy-proofing the house. Okay, but what do I want to let go of? I'm letting go of, I'm a solo person. Or whatever. I'm letting go of my old dog. Okay, good, clean up. I'm letting go of, what do I want to release? Now, what do I want to bring in? What I want to bring in is my presence with this dog. What I want to bring in is more love. Okay, so then you get to pick. So whether the transition you're in the middle of now is little or small, play with creating a ritual around it. It can be very simple. Play with what would an altar look like to honor this transition. Okay? And then put it into practice. And even if you can't build it physically, you can do it in your mind. Your mind's very powerful. Okay? And for those of you that have kids or dogs or puppies or roommates or husbands or wives that you don't want to, I know somebody who had their altar in their underwear drawer. And they would pull the drawer open and they would do their little ritual and then they'd close it back up again. Worked great.
That's great.
Yeah, worked great. So that's perfect. Perfect. Okay. So honoring transitions in your life, past and present, as a way to create healing. Because truly we have the capacity to dream ourselves in a completely new way and to walk into this new life and to reconnect with what I call our essence. So we each at some point as kids split. Okay, and there was who we truly were. There's our essence. There's our connection to life, to spirit, to magic, whatever you want to call it. And then there's a part of us that splits off and says, this is who I'm supposed to be. This is how I'm supposed to act. And for me, the joy is bringing these two back together. And that it can be a joy, that this doesn't have to be, okay, I have to fix myself. And once I fix myself, then I can enjoy, then I can be okay, or spiritual, or happy, or have a partner, whatever. Okay? That this actual coming back together of these two parts of ourselves can be the joy, can be fun, rather than being a struggle. Okay? And that's part of what is my heart is around community. Because what I've seen is that each of us as individuals, we tend to get really serious around ourselves. You notice this? Okay, you should be done by that now. She said to create a ritual. Come on, let's do it. Okay. Our little brains are not exactly trustworthy. Okay, they're not often helpful. They try to be. Well, actually, they don't really try to be, do they? Okay, we wish they were, but they're not really that helpful. So it's so much more supportive to us to come together with other women in this idea of ritual and transformation and healing, because we can then bring a lightness and joy to the process. And I think about women, I think one of the gifts of women is that we love coming together to do things as a group so often. It's really nourishing, it's really healing. If we were doing our own thing, there's a nourishment that happens in that. So to find that in your life, to find community in your life that supports you in moving towards your authenticity. Because I'm guessing each of us has plenty of areas in our lives where there's people or situations that don't support us, that want us to be the role or the thing that they think we should be, or to fit, or to be who we've always been. Okay? So simply expand your container so that you start to find people that support you in finding out who you really are, rather than who you've been, or who you think you should have been, or who you're wanting to be. It's just not good. If only I hadn't moved. Okay. And someone can go, hello? Remember you had a good life? Oh yeah, thank you. Or just in the sharing of a story, there's an awakening. There's oh yeah, it could be different. I do have that power to create change in my own life. Okay, we inspire each other. So we've got about 7 minutes. I want to share about a program that we have coming up. And for the global folks, we have something really special tonight, which is my dear friend Amy Zielinski, who's part of 13 Moons and is our global coordinator, is going to stay on the call afterwards to talk more about 13 Moons Global and the container for that. So I'll talk about that in a second. Just the biggest viewpoint is that 13 Moons was a program that I created probably 15 years ago. And over the years, I taught it for many years, then I stopped teaching it, and then I started teaching it again. And this is our third circle, like physical in the world circle of 13 Moons. And one of my heart's desires is always around creating community, because I've seen the power of community to create changes in things that have been stuck forever for people. I felt that in my own life, and I've seen that with so many other people. And so with 13 Moons, we have both a local group in Austin, and we also have a big global web of women from all over the place. This year we had women from Japan, Australia, Switzerland, Cambodia, who is now in France. Did I say Australia, down under? Canada, all over. And it's a gift for those of us that maybe don't have solid community to be able to hook in with a web of women that are doing the same work. And the work we do over 13 Moons is really play. It's really about finding our joy, and it's about learning new tools. I'm a way big practical girl. So you got a couple tools tonight, and if you want more tools, go to our website, toci.org. That's toci.org. There's a lot of articles and videos and lots of tools to help make change in your life. Because it's not helpful to just think about what you want to be or wish that things were different. It's about putting the action behind. And to put the action behind yourself effectively, you want tools that work. So I've spent the last 20 years finding the tools that work. That's been my mission, is what tools work, and then how to bring people together to work those tools together so that we stay on track with each other. Okay? That's a really big gift to ourselves, is getting the tools, but then also getting the support to use the tools, to actually put them into practice. So that's the container that 13 Moons gives. We go through different areas of our life. We work with ancestry, releasing the past around our ancestors and coming into a new relationship with family. We work with sexuality. We work with power and will and focus. We work with speaking our truth. We work with opening the heart and being in a relationship to love in a new way. We work with intuition. And each of these different topics, we go deep into over a month period. We pick one topic and then go deeply into that topic. And with each month, there's a tool that goes with that. So there's a specific tool that you'll learn of how to integrate this into your life. Okay, way fun. Amy, for the global people, is going to be helping to create the pods and hold the space for, we have the big group, and then you also get little pods, so you can be more intimate with a group of women. And she's also helping facilitate the global teaching. She'll be teaching the tools. She'll be doing question and answers after each of the broadcasts. And everything is recorded. So tonight's class is recorded so that you can have access to it. You can pass it on to your friends if you like. We're going to have this recording posted through December 31st. And the first part. So those will be available up on the web for the next 2 weeks. Can you believe it? It's almost 2012! Wow. So we'll have those posted for the next couple weeks. And we have a special on 13 Moons right now. So for those of you that are global, hang out afterwards and talk to Amy if you have any questions or if you just want to hear more about the global program. And I'll tell you how to do that in a minute. But the special is, this is good for the Austin people as well as for the people at home, that if you sign up for 13 Moons between now and Friday at midnight, we realized, is the correct time that the coupon ends. We have a coupon that you're going to get in your mailbox that's for $50 off the first down payment, the first payment. So it's a monthly payment for the program. I really wanted to make it easy and affordable for as many people as possible. And so you can get this coupon for $50 off. Yay! And I really support you in giving yourself the gift of community of support, whether that's through 13 Moons or someplace else. It's so vital for us as women to come back together to create a sisterhood that's supportive, that's non-competitive, that's about highest purpose for each of us. And for those of you that are global, and for you guys as well, when you go check your email, we've already sent the email out. We've already scheduled it, so it'll be in your inbox. So you can watch this video, the first video, learn more about 13 Moons, or sign yourself up for the program if that feels like it would be of support to you. And it's phenomenal. So for those of you that are global, to learn more, just stay on the phone if you're on the phone. If you're on the webcast, what you'll need to do is close your browser. So actually quit out of the webcast, wait a couple minutes. Amy's going to take over the webcast. and then come back on. But you do need to not reboot
They
your
don't need to
computer.
close the browser.
They don't?
No.
My
No,
techie
no.
person, my IT department is speaking to me.
It's just that the viewer's gonna turn off, it'll say it's off,
Okay,
and then when Amy comes on, it'll say on air again.
okay. Cool. Okay, so for those of you that are global, you don't have to reboot anything. It'll go off air. Amy comes on, it'll be back on air. You hit play, right? There's a little arrowy thing. Play.
They'll probably have to hit play again.
Yeah, you might have to hit play again. And if that doesn't just refresh the page.
Yeah.
Boom, and that'll reboot it. Okay? So enjoy your time with Amy, for those of you that are hanging out on the global, and she'll answer any questions that you have. She's been on the chat, so she also has your questions, and she can address any of the questions that I didn't as well. Thanks so much for joining for the global. Many blessings to you, and I hope to see you somewhere down the road. Oh, and one last thing. In January 18th, I'm doing another free webcast, which is on conscious relationship and sexual integrity. So check your email box. We'll be announcing that probably the first week of January. Blessings to each of you. Have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye. Bye, Amy. Thank you.